Today's video comes from YouTuber Guy M, who wants to know, what if Riko Amanai didn't die by Toji's hand in the hidden inventory arc? How would this singular change affect the Jujutsu world as we know? Let's get fired up and get down to it. The mission to protect Riko Amanai was a disaster in the original timeline. What if that choice was never made? Gojo and Geto make a different choice. When Toji Fushiguro launched his brutal attack, Gojo survived and stopped him, forcing him to retreat. The battle against the Sorcerer Killer was brutal like in the original timeline. They were outmatched and it showed. Gojo's abilities had not developed like it did later on. In the original timeline, Toji was able to kill Riko because he had gotten past Gojo. In order for our Gojo to become nuclear powered like he later gets in the anime, Toji still kills him, but his awakening comes much quicker, letting him circle back and save Riko from being killed by Toji. Gojo goes up against Toji, now understanding his own power. He tests his new abilities against Toji, dodging his strikes. Gojo vanishes behind him, startling this speed demon. Without another word, he shoots Curse Reversal Technique, Red, at Toji. Toji manages to block it at the last minute with the inverted Heavenly Spear, sending him flying towards the wall. Toji, realizing that Gojo is a monster, instead of continuing the fight like we see in the anime, he vanishes in the middle of the rubble, choosing to fight another day. With Riko still alive, the two friends realize the Jujutsu higher-ups will never let this go. They'll brand them traitors and hunt them down, so they decided to vanish, taking Riko with them. From that moment on, Gojo Satoru and Geto Suguru became rogue sorcerers, legends whispered in the cursed world. They don't just hide, they fight, but they fight on their terms, protecting civilians from curses, taking down corrupt sorcerers, and growing stronger in the shadows. Gojo's power skyrockets without the restraints of Jujutsu Society's rigid rules. He's a one-man army, a walking apocalypse when he needs to be. Geto, on the other hand, struggles. The same philosophy that turned him against humanity in the main timeline now threatens to consume him here. But with Riko's constant presence, the girl who they saved and who believes in them, he somehow clings to his humanity. The Jujutsu higher-ups mobilized everything they had. Special grade sorcerers, cursed users on conditional release, even members of the Zenin clan, all dispatched with a single mission: bring back the traitors and complete the Star Plasma Vessel ritual. What followed was a brutal game of cat and mouse. Safe houses lasted days at most before they had to move again. Identities changed like seasons. Gojo and Geto left behind trails of defeated pursuers, each encounter cementing their reputation as untouchable rogues. But their victory would soon be short-lived. As word spread of their defection, others began to seek them out. Disillusioned sorcerers, those who questioned the rigid traditions, those who had lost faith in the system that treated them as disposable. They all came to Riko, drawn by rumors of the Star Plasma Vessel who lived when she was meant to die. Riko's wealth and charisma, combined with Gojo and Geto's power, created something new, an underground network that operated outside Jujutsu Society's rules. They hunted curses their way, protected civilians without the constraints of bureaucracy, and slowly began to change what it meant to be a Jujutsu sorcerer in modern Japan. They called themselves the Outliers. News reports surfaced of mysterious interventions, catastrophic curses neutralized, civilians saved by unseen protectors, disaster sites inexplicably secured. The higher-ups knew exactly who was responsible, and their concern grew with each successful operation. They had become something more than the higher-ups could handle, and they needed to be neutralized. But the change doesn't stop there. After almost dying, Riko decides that it is time to learn to protect herself. She begs Gojo and Geto to teach her how. She wants to learn how to be a sorcerer who can protect herself. Gojo is skeptical at first. He tells her that the Star Plasma Vessel was never meant to fight, but Riko stands her ground, telling him that the Star Plasma Vessel was never supposed to survive either. Yet here she was. Reluctantly, the boys start to teach her. Under their guidance, her powers manifest. The barriers she created were unlike anything they had ever seen before. Not just defensive shields, but complex structures that could redirect, amplify, or nullify cursed energy. They soon realized that this is her connection to Tengen's barrier techniques. This is why she was the perfect host for group. Geto observes as Riko split a curse in half with a barrier blade of her own creation. Day by day, the protected became a protector. Months of training transformed Riko from a sacrificial lamb into a formidable fighter. Her barrier manipulation techniques evolving in ways that even surprised Gojo. But this power comes at a price. Riko's connection to Tengen, even though she never merged with him, makes her a prime target for Kenjaku. He's always got his eyes on powerful vessels, and Riko is his latest obsession. Her link to Tengen could be the key to Kenjaku's plans for cursed evolution. So, Riko becomes a walking target, and she's about to be at the center of the final conflict. 3 years into their rogue operations, news reached them that shook even Gojo's demeanor. Naname Kento, their former colleague who had left Jujutsu work only to return, had reportedly died on a mission gone wrong. He was a good man, Gojo said quietly as he added that Naname was one of the few who might have understood why they did what they did. defeated. Their network observed a period of mourning for the fallen sorcerer, but something about the reports didn't sit right with Geto. The details were too vague. The body never recovered. During a mission to exercise a particularly violent curse in Shibuya, they encountered a young boy with extraordinary potential, Megumi Fushiguro, wielding the 10 Shadows technique with untrained but impressive skill. In this timeline, Gojo did not have to kill Toji, and he never had to take responsibility for Megumi. Megumi's life would have gone on as he was sold to the Zenin clan. His innate abilities become the only reason they keep him around, even though he is a child of Toji, the very bane of their existence. Much like Maki's Zenin, he is hated for what is inside him, his blood. Being the son of the one stain to the Zenin name, by the time he meets Gojo and Geto, he is somewhat untrained and his life has been as rough as it can be, with growing up amidst assholes. Geto notices that he is Zenin, recognizing the technique, but something about him feels very off. Gojo studies the boy, and after they take down the curse together, they start to become acquainted. They soon learn of his abandonment by the Zenin clan, of his father's disappearance, of the burden placed on shoulders too young. In Megumi, they saw a reflection of their own pasts, talented children used as tools by the Jujutsu world, and it is unlike Riko not to let in a stray, so she offers that he come with them. Under their guidance, Megumi's potential flourished. His serious demeanor occasionally cracked around Riko's warmth, and even Gojo's antics sometimes drew reluctant smiles. Among the rogue sorcerers, Megumi found something he'd never had before, a family that valued him for more than just his technique. As their movement grew, so did the weight on Geto's shoulders. Each mission brought him face to face with humanity's darker side, the non-sorcerers who abused others, who created environments where curses thrived. Sometimes I wonder if saving them is worth it, he confessed to Gojo during a rare moment of vulnerability. If they're worth the sacrifices we make. Riko became his anchor. Her belief in their cause pulled him back whenever his thoughts grew too dark. Her presence reminded him of why they had rebelled in the first place, to protect the innocent, not to judge who deserved saving. Yet the seed had been planted, the idea that perhaps a world of only sorcerers would be cleaner, purer, free of the pollution that created curses in the first place. Riko gently holds his hands, reminding him that this is their duty. Gojo senses the change in his friend, but there was nothing he could do about it. Free from the constraints of Jujutsu society, Gojo's power grew exponentially. The Six Eyes and Limitless technique evolved in ways that even he hadn't anticipated. New applications of his infinity, refinements to his domain expansion, techniques he had once considered theoretical now manifest through constant combat experience. His reputation spread like wildfire, the untouchable sorcerer whose very presence ended conflicts before they began. Cursed users fled at the mere rumor of his arrival. Geto tells him that he is becoming more than just a man, that he is becoming a legend. Gojo laughs it off, but the burden of being the strongest weighs on him. With great power came great responsibility to their cause, to Riko, to the growing network that looked to him as a symbol. I'm still just me, he insisted, but they all know that wasn't entirely true anymore. Strange reports began filtering through their network. Unusual curse users displaying techniques that should never have been possible. Disaster curses appearing with unprecedented coordination, as if guided by an unseen hand. Most disturbing were the sightings of unexplained occurrences near disaster sites, always vanishing before confirmation. The descriptions were inconsistent. No one knew who was doing this, but the pattern was becoming impossible to ignore, especially when their safe houses began to be compromised one by one. Someone who knew them, who understood their methods, was hunting them. They needed to find out who this could be, or they would always be running. The ambush came during what should have been a routine mission. A powerful curse suddenly disappeared, leaving behind a trap designed specifically for them. Toji Fushiguro emerged from the shadows, armed with tools crafted to counter each of their abilities. Geto quickly alerts Gojo, Megumi, and Riko as soon as he spots Toji, his own cursed spirits swirling around him defensively. Toji's eyes scan their group until they land on Megumi. Something flashes across his face but is quickly replaced by his emotionless stare. Gojo tells him that he is outnumbered, removing his blindfold to reveal the six eyes glowing with power. Toji's smile was cold, and without another word, they clash. The battle exploded across the abandoned warehouse district. Toji was more prepared this time, using specialized cursed tools that even Gojo struggled to counter, considering how it went the last time. The inverted spear of heaven. It is a tool that nullifies cursed energy, and he wields it with more ferocity. His lack of cursed energy made him invisible to normal detection, and his superhuman physical abilities kept him one step ahead. The tension rises when Toshi Fushiguro unleashes more cursed tools their way. Gojo's previous encounters with Toji had taught him that the man's strength was not cursed energy, but his ability to exploit weaknesses. Toji's sheer skill and precision made him a formidable opponent for even the strongest sorcerers. Gojo knows this, and he's prepared. This time, he's operating without the constraints of the Jujutsu Society's rules. From the moment Toji enters the scene, Gojo's instinct is to end the fight immediately. immediately, but Toji is different now. He's learned from his past battles, and he is no longer an easy target for Gojo's usual tricks. The first clash is brutal. Toji moves with impossible speed, using his cursed tools and physical prowess to avoid Gojo's attacks and land devastating blows. Gojo counters with a flurry of energy blasts and spatial distortions, but Toji's unmatched agility allows him to slip through the cracks, getting close enough to land strikes even though they are deflected by infinity. Despite this, Gojo's natural advantage is clear. He's still untouchable, even when Toji manages to slip past his defenses. But Gojo isn't the only one in danger. Riko, who's been staying back, watching the battle unfold, becomes a target. In the chaos of the fight, Toji spots her and goes after her with realizing that if he kills her, he'll cripple the remaining resistance. Toji moves like lightning, using the chaos as cover to get within striking distance of Riko. Gojo's focus shifts immediately, his protective instinct kicking in. In a desperate attempt to save her, Gojo leaves himself wide open. Toji takes advantage, landing a series of blows that push back Gojo, allowing him to reach Riko. Just as Toji raises his weapon to strike, Gojo manages to intervene, using his power to deflect the attack and send Toji flying back, but it's a temporary victory. Gojo's instincts have already alerted him that something is off. Geto directs his attack to Gojo, causing him to take a step back before he can think. Gojo figures that Toji is using a cursed artifact to mind control Geto. The once trusted ally, now under Toji's control, turns on Gojo and Riko without warning. Geto's eyes now blank as he directs his attacks at his allies. He attacks Gojo first without hesitation. The clash between the two is devastating. Gojo is forced to fight his own comrade. Geto, under mind control, unleashes his full curse technique. Horror dawned as Geto turned on them, his vast arsenal of cursed spirits now directed at his friends. Gojo was forced to divide his attention, protecting Riko while trying not to harm Geto. Gojo shouts at Geto to fight it, creating barriers of infinity between them, but the cursed tool has complete control. Curses poured from Geto's arsenal, attacking Gojo. Megumi stepped forward, his Shikigami forming a protective line. The battle was chaotic, Toji darting between them with inhuman speed, Geto's controlled body launching wave after wave of cursed spirits. Gojo trying to protect everyone while finding a solution. Megumi fought with everything he had, his 10 shadows technique creating openings that allowed Riko to establish defensive barriers. For a moment, it seemed they might actually gain the upper hand. While Gojo is preoccupied with fighting Geto, Riko is caught in the crossfire. Toji, now in control of the battlefield, focuses on her again. Riko is forced to defend herself, but she's not strong enough, especially where Toji is concerned and her barrier manipulation ability, though powerful, isn't fully honed. Toji presses the attack, using his speed and strength to close in on her. Megumi summons divine dogs, clashing with Toji. He attacks from behind, using his Shikigami to disorient Toji. His goal is to buy time, to keep Toji off balance while Gojo works on freeing Geto from mind control. The battle between Megumi and Toji is brutal and fast-paced. Toji, with his overwhelming physical strength and cursed tools, counters Megumi's every move, but Megumi's cunning gives him a chance to land hits and momentarily slow Toji down. But the tide turns when Toji catches Megumi off guard, using one of his cursed tools to pin him to the ground. Megumi's strength, while impressive, isn't enough to counter Toji's sheer force. Toji stands over him, pinning him down, then something shifts. Riko sends a barrier slicing technique aimed at Toji, causing him to get off Megumi. He staggers backwards. Annoyance flashes on his face as he launches at Riko with his dagger. Just at that last second, Megumi gets in the way, taking the dagger to the heart instead. Gojo, realizing he has no choice, pushes himself to the limit, uses his full strength to break through Geto's mind control. The technique is painful, forcing Gojo to tap into a level of power he rarely uses. The battle is a blur of spatial distortions and devastating blows, but Gojo manages to sever the link between Toji and Geto. Geto, now free, stands there for a moment, disoriented, as if waking from a nightmare. As they turn their attention to Toji, he's cleaning his dagger with emotionless eyes. Megumi is beside him in a pool of blood, and Riko is trembling as Toji walks closer to her. Toji, realizing what he's done, pauses. In the moment of reflection, realizing the true cost of this battle, the aftermath is heavy, and this is all part of his master plan, the one who hired Toji to find them in the first place. Anime Lover Boy here, mid-editing. If you're enjoying this video, subscribe and become part of the Anime Lover gang. And while you're down there, might as well leave a like as well. Megumi Fushiguro died in Geto's arms. His blood stained the sorcerer's robes. Geto's anguished scream echoed through the night. Gojo stood frozen, unable to process what had happened. The boy they had sworn to protect was gone, and that's when it happened. From the shadows emerged a figure they both knew well. Kento Naname stepped forward, but something was wrong. The smirk that spread across his face was nothing like the stoic expression Naname typically wore. As Naname stepped into the light, they knew that this wasn't their colleague. Gojo lowered his blindfold, his 6 eyes revealing the truth of what stood before them. There was someone in Naname's body. Toji watched him like a hawk as he recalled the voice of the man. Geto remained kneeling beside Megumi's body as the ancient curse user explained his plan through Naname's lips. This had never been about Riko Amanai. She was merely a distraction. Kenjaku had orchestrated everything, manipulating them all to kill Megumi. It was all his plan to aim at Gojo Satoru to create the perfect moment of vulnerability. Before either could fully process it, Kenjaku produced a small box covered in seals, the prison realm. Before he could move, a moment's hesitation was all it took. The prison realm opened, light erupting around them as an ancient binding technique began to pull at Gojo's very existence. In an instant, everything changed. The air around Gojo twisted, warping as the prison realm snapped open its grotesque hands, holding Gojo in place. His 6 eyes locked onto it, and for a brief moment, he saw it all. The design, the trap, the impossibility of escape. Gojo lunged forward despite his grief, but the technique has already begun. He struggled against its pull, finding himself unable to move, and just like that, he was sealed. Geto and Riko watched in horror as their best friend was swallowed into what looked like an ancient cube. Toji Fushigero's face is a mask of pure rage after hearing Kenjaku's plan. He moved with impossible speed, his weapon slicing through the air towards Nanami's possessed form. The interruption nearly breaks the prison realm's concentration, but the grasp tightens Gojo, making him unable to free from his grasp. Geto remained in shock, staring at Megumi's body and the spot where Gojo just was. Riko, who had been watching in horror from behind a barrier, finally stepped forward. Kenjaku assessed the situation with calculating eyes. With a fluid motion of Nanami's hand, he activated his trump card, a domain expansion. The world around them warped and twisted. Overtime calculation manifested as an office filled with countless ticking clocks and ledgers. Nanami's technique twisted into something far more sinister under Kenjaku's control. The domain instantly envelops everyone. Toji gets flung around like a rag doll as the domain attempts to find his weak spot, but he quickly gets his footing. The rest of them are held in the spot while a series of attacks are being targeted at their weak spots. Geto quickly deploys one of his cursed spirits to protect himself and Riko, but his barrier is cracking. Nanami's domain lets him find a ratio of all targets in his domain. Kenjaku, by his own abilities, adds gravity manipulation to ensure the targets are held in place. The fight continues in a more desperate fashion as Geto and Riko are getting crushed under the gravity while the attacks are growing. Toji, being heavily restricted with no cursed energy, moved through the domain with less resistance than the others. His rage fueled his movements as he charged forward, weapon ready. The battle was vicious but brief. Kenjaku, realizing he was outnumbered, collapsed his domain rather than risk defeat. Toji stood panting, blood dripping from multiple wounds. Without a word, he walked over to Megumi's body and gently lifted his son. The sorcerer killer, known for his ruthlessness, cradled the boy with unexpected tenderness before turning to leave. Geto called after him, but Toji didn't look back. His intention was clear. He would bury his son and then hunt down the ancient sorcerer who had used them all as pawns in his game. As Toji disappeared into the night carrying Megumi's body, Geto was unable to forgive himself. He should have been stronger, strong enough to protect everything he calls family. The simple change in the story that saves Amane Riko would send ripples to the Jujutsu world in so many ways. Kenjaku's plans would change. His timeline would need adjusting for the Calling game and resurrecting Sukuna. Let us know in the comments how you think this change would affect the timeline. Thank you for watching today's video. Until next time.